Hi guys, welcome to this video where, much like the very first video on this series I did, there's actually going to be no calculations today. I'm not going to be doing any trigonometry. I'm not going to actually be applying any of these rules. I'm purely going to be working out which one I should be using. So I'm going to be, again, referring to the 2022 formula sheet and kind of talking through the thought processes that you should be having when you are answering a question in trigonometry. So the very first question I always ask myself is the triangle right angled? Because if we look here, the first two parts of the formula sheet relating to triangles regard right angled triangles. So if it's a right angled triangle, first of all, that's good news for you because I think they are easier than non-right angled triangles to deal with. Is it a right angled triangle? The next question has to be, are there angles? Okay, so if you're given an angle or you are asked to find an angle, we know straight away what we should be doing. We should, if there are angles, be using SOHCAHTOA. Okay, because remember, SOHCAHTOA relates to the sine of an angle or the cosine of an angle or a tan of an angle. They're not going to throw in an angle if it's not useful for the question. Okay, so if you need to work out what a side is and you're given an angle, you will have to be using SOHCAHTOA. Refer back to the very first video on this playlist and you will see how you choose which of those relationships, which of those equations you should use. If there are no angles in the question, so no angles in the question, you're going to have to use Pythagoras. If you don't know the value of an angle or you're not asked to find the value of an angle, no way you can use SOHCAHTOA. The angle is so important there. So you would have to use Pythagoras. And that finds, remember, just the length of the side. Oh, I can't spell. So that finds the length of the side. So those are, before you watch these videos, those would have been the only bits of trig that you were aware of. Those are the only questions you should have been asking. It gets a little bit trickier when we look at non-right angled triangles. So remember, the bottom half triangle section refers to any triangle where it's not right angle. So an example is here. So your first question should be, are there a given pair of opposite sides and angles? Okay, so if there are, that is the sine rule. So if you are given, actually I'll do a diagram on here. If you are given this angle and this side and then this angle and an unknown side, you can see there are some opposite pairs, so you're going to be using the sine rule. Okay, now if there is not, you should be looking for the cosine rule. Really, that is all there is going to be left over. So you're going to be using the cosine rule, but what kind are you going to be using? So if there is actually I'll just write, we're going to use the cosine rule. If you're given, so if you have a corner cluster, you're going to want to use the cosine rule as it is. Okay, so if you have a corner cluster, just sub in your value values of capital A, lowercase b and lowercase c. If you have all three sides, you will need to rearrange. Okay, so actually, yeah, there's quite a lot of decisions you're going to have to make here. Just break it down and think, is it right angled? If the answer is no, you can get rid of quite a lot of options there. Then you need to be looking, have you got your opposite sides and opposite angles? If you have, that's going to be sine rule. If you've got a corner cluster, it's going to be cosine rule. And if you've got all three sides, it'll be the cosine rule rearranged. One thing I do want to mention before I go, just another little tip regarding triangles. There's lots of places you can make mistakes here. Okay, you may end up forgetting to square root an answer. You may make a mistake with your negatives. You might end up with an answer that doesn't quite seem right. Now, always remember, just a little tip, it's not always going to be useful, but actually it could be quite a nice way of double checking your answer. Remember, in a triangle, I'm just going to write this down. So remember, can't spell. In a triangle, the biggest side, the longest side, is always opposite biggest angle. Okay, so any triangle that is the case. So that is a nice little check. So if you have got an angle of 100 degrees and opposite that is your smallest side, you've made a mistake somewhere. Okay, just remember the visualization I would always use is actually just a pair of compasses. Okay, if you imagine the triangle that is formed by the end of this compass, the end of this leg with this point here, okay, the shorter the distance between them, the smaller the angle. If you've got quite a big distance, you're going to have a bigger angle. Okay, so that is just a nice little way of checking if your answer makes sense. Okay, there's one final video that I'm going to be looking at, and that is going to be using the area of a triangle, but a more advanced formula. So hopefully this has been useful for you guys. If you are in my 2022 class, there is going to be a picture of this uploaded onto our team. So I'll see you very shortly, guys.